Man, thank you guys so much. So here's the thing. In case you guys weren't around, how many of you guys were here today for the concert? Awesome. And in case you guys were not here, we got to come to the school today. We did an assembly program, a different concert, totally different than this one. And in that show, we did some music. I got to talk a little bit about making choices, making good decisions for your life, that kind of thing. And I told a couple of stories, and I hope it's cool. I've got one more story for you guys tonight, and then we'll move on with the concert and have some more music, all right? So if you want to, if it's going to be more comfortable for you, you can feel free to have a seat for just a couple minutes, all right? And then we'll get back up, we'll do some more songs, okay? If not, you can stay right here. It's totally fine with me, all right? So, here's the thing. Here's the thing. This story is actually from a time when I was in middle school and high school, okay? When I was in middle school and high school, some of y'all are going to identify with what I'm about to tell you, and some of you are probably going to want to punch me in the face, okay? Let me just explain that, all right? So when I was in middle school and high school, I was that guy, okay? And by that guy, I mean I was the guy who, if I got in trouble in school, yeah, but see, if I got in trouble in school, everybody, well, I mean, it probably should have just made newspaper headlines, all right? Because I was that guy who never got in trouble. As a matter of fact, I was such a good, well-behaved kid in school that I made the other students who were the good kids look not that good, all right? Because, yeah, teacher's pet, isn't it? Yeah. Now, okay, but listen. That's why I say some of y'all are gonna get what I'm talking about. Some of y'all are gonna be like, yeah, you're that guy, right? Well, here's the thing.
I don't believe you.
Trust me, you'll know in a second, right? So here's the thing. When I was there, when I was in school, let me just give you a for instance here. From the time I was in 7th grade to 12th grade, I got one detention. And that one detention was for being 1 minute late for school. So watch out, I'm on the verge of full-on rebellion, okay? So, 1 minute late for school, 7th to 12th grade, that was my whole thing, right? Now, if you're anything like me, sometimes when I hear somebody start to talk about like making good choices and like do the right thing and that kind of thing, I end up having a question, and that question for me a lot of times is, well, why? Like, why should I do the right thing if I can do something that's better for me? Who cares what happens to somebody else? Because, I mean, it's good for me, right? And the thing is, for me, in high school and middle school, the why behind why I was being so good was, frankly, because I was terrified. Now, let me explain that, and then we'll go on from there. I was extremely afraid in that whole time that if I ever messed up one time, if I ever screwed up one time, if I was ever less than perfect, if I ever did anything wrong, I was absolutely terrified that I was on a one-way ticket to hell. Now, check this out. No. Hold on a second. I'll explain why that's not a bad word, okay? Because here's the thing. Just so you know, I was a church kid, right? My dad was a pastor, okay? I went to a Christian school, so I was like the epitome of that church bubble kid, right? And I'm telling you all this stuff, not at all to brag, okay? Because this whole terror thing was horrible, and let me explain how bad it got. As a church kid, you gotta know that about me because that's why this stuff made sense. I was so afraid, just for instance on this, my freshman year of high school, we had English class, we had spelling tests, and I was really good at them. I could spell the word, put it in a sentence, write the definition, all that stuff. The beginning of my freshman year, I was one of the first people done every time, because I was pretty good at it. By the end of my freshman year, I was one of the last people done every time. Not because I forgot how to spell, but because as I would be writing the answers on my test, every letter that I drew on the paper had to be drawn absolutely perfectly. And if I didn't draw it perfectly, I had to erase it and rewrite it, and erase it and rewrite it, and erase it and rewrite it until it was perfect. But the problem was, there was a time limit on that class, and my teacher would stand there and he would say, hey, I don't care if you're done or not, you gotta turn it in right now. And I would turn my paper in, kind of fearing for my life, because I was afraid that since it wasn't done perfectly, I was going to hell. That sounds ridiculous, and you're right, it is ridiculous, okay? But that was what was in my head. And imagine that pressure, imagine that kind of fear moving into every area of your life. Everything you do, everything I did was that kind of pressure, that kind of fear that drove me to do all these things to make sure that I was going to be perfect. And the problem was, it got really bad. So bad, by my junior year of high school, by the end of that year, I found myself sitting in a chair across from a psychologist getting counseling for something called obsessive-compulsive disorder. It's an anxiety disorder where, because you're afraid of something, you feel like you have to do things. And I was doing that over and over, trying to get over being scared because I was so terrified of what God might do if I messed up. Now, some of y'all might hear what I'm saying right now, and you think, okay, if church and if the Bible and this whole God thing, if it messed you up so badly, if it was messing with your mind so badly, then it would be totally fair for you to just say, forget it. I'm not going to touch this thing again. This is ridiculous. It's over. I'm done with it. And that's a fair place to start because I was messed up. But the crazy thing about that whole situation is that I found, through that experience, the Bible to be even more true to me. And let me just explain that real quick and then we'll move on, right? But here's the thing, you gotta know this, in case you're not somebody who knows what the Bible says, in case you're not familiar with it, let me just give you a real quick brief thing about what the Bible tells us so you understand where I'm going with this, right? So the Bible tells us this, it tells us there's a God. The Bible tells us that God created the world and He made the world perfectly. The Bible tells us that God created the world to work in a certain way, okay? It works in a certain way with our physical laws, like you're going to read that in your physics class, your science classes. You're going to learn about physical laws, like if you drop something, gravity takes it to the ground. It's a physical law, right? God also set it up so that it will work according to something some people call like a moral law, or a way that we can interact with people in a good way. Now, the Bible tells us that God created the world really, really well. It was perfect. And if we do those things, if we obey those laws, if we obey the laws of physics, we're good. If we obey the laws, the moral law, we're good, okay? But if we disobey those laws, there are consequences. Now, just think about this. Even if you don't believe in God, imagine a world where there's no stealing, right? God said, don't steal. If there's a world where no stealing takes place, you don't have to lock your doors. Everything's awesome just because of that one rule being followed, right? So that's awesome, right? But if you break the rules, there's a bunch of those that kind of show us how we should interact with people. If you mess those up, there are consequences. Just like with physical laws, like if you step off a building, you will fall down. It's called breaking the law of gravity, and you will get hurt probably, right? If you mess up the relationship you have with people, and you mess up the relationship you have with God by contributing to the brokenness of the world, by messing the world up yourself, there are consequences to that too. And the Bible tells us that the consequence is separation from God and a ruined life. Now, I understood all of that stuff leading up to my junior year. I got it, right? I was like, okay, cool. I understand all this. But I made one of two mistakes that I think a lot of people make when they approach this whole God thing. And that the mistake I made was this. I thought, okay, fine. I realized I messed up. I realized I messed up the world. I realized there's a God, and I realized that I deserve to be punished. So, if I can just do the right thing, if I can just make sure that I live my life perfectly, if I can make sure that my good stuff outweighs my bad stuff, or that I'm just good enough to be better than that guy, then God's cool with that, and that's fine. But the crazy thing is, this is where the Bible got more true to me, because the crazy thing is the Bible already told me, even though I didn't understand it, the Bible already said you